There's a bunch of awesome mythical Pokemon in Pokemon Go, but there's some really cool mythicals that are not in the game yet. Let's talk about them. First up, from Generation 4, Phione. Phione, however you pronounce it. It's a water type mythical from Generation 4, and it is very interesting. The only way to obtain this Pokemon is to breed it with a Ditto, and the next Pokemon we're talking about, the mythical water type Manaphy. So these Pokemon have a very interesting relationship. Technically, Phione is the baby evolution to Manaphy, and it is only obtainable when you breed a Manaphy and a Ditto. But Phione does not evolve into a Manaphy. I know, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Regardless, very cool, mysterious, mythical Pokemon, fan favorites. And the question is, how the heck is this going to work in Pokemon Go? Well, we don't have breeding in the game yet, so we have no idea how that's going to work when that ever comes to the game. And my guess, if they do not implement a breeding system in the game, we probably just get Phione and Manaphy through some special research, hopefully soon. I would much rather them be introduced with a brand new breeding mechanic. That would be awesome, especially if they drop these mythical Pokemon with that feature. Can you imagine? That'd be pretty crazy. But again, I think special research for both of these guys would probably be more likely. I hope I'm wrong. And also, I don't think either of these Pokemon are going to be in raids at all, so we don't have to worry about that. Moving on to arguably the greatest Pokemon of all time from Generation 4, Arceus, the normal type mythical Pokemon that is very complicated. So Arceus is known as the god of Pokemon. It is the end all be all. It is the Pokemon out there. The crazy thing about Arceus is that it can change its type and form to any type in the game. It could be a water type, a poison type, dragon, psychic, electric, whatever, all dependent on which item it is holding at the time. Now, we don't have hold items in Pokemon Go. Maybe one day that would be awesome, but as of right now, if Arceus gets implemented into the game, it's such a special Pokemon that I could see it being available one time or maybe a few times only. But I could see a world where something like this gets dropped at a special event through raids. Maybe they're elite raids, maybe they're like special raids, I don't know. I could see them going either way with this. Now, in terms of the form changes of Pokemon Go, I think Arceus would probably just work how Furfrou works in the game. You pay a certain amount of Stardust or candies or whatever to change the Arceus into whatever type you want it to. I do not see them having, 27 different Arceus forms with each different type. That would be absolutely insane. Or maybe when they drop Arceus, this forces them to integrate a hold item system or something like that. That would be awesome too. Remember, the Sinnoh Tour comes out in February of 2024, and that is all about Generation 4. Usually during these Go tours, every Pokemon from that gen is released. Now that's interesting because a Pokemon like Arceus and technically Manaphy and Phione should release during this tour. No word on them just yet. We'll have to see what happens, but some would imagine these Pokemon would come out pretty soon here. Again, not entirely too sure how they handle Arceus. That's a tricky one. Next up, from Generation 6, we have Volcanion, the fire and water type mythical. A Pokemon like this just seems like it would be in 5-star raids. It makes a lot of sense to me. It looks cool. It's probably going to be pretty good in the game, hopefully. We'll have to see how they treat it upon release, but it could also be elite raid Pokemon. That's possible. The thing about Volcanion, it's pretty special. It's available through special events, and Pokemon Go doesn't always go hand in hand with the main series games. There's a lot of Pokemon that get treated differently depending on what game they're in. So with a Pokemon like Volcanion, because it's such a cool type, it's such a cool Pokemon, it's a mythical, they could put it in special research, I don't know, but knowing them, it's probably going to go in raids. That makes sense to me. Now, next up, from Generation 7, we have the steel and fairy type mythical Magearna. Magearna, honestly, is an interesting Pokemon because it's difficult to obtain in the main series games, but a Pokemon like this, I don't know. I could see them going either way. Could be special research, could be raids, not entirely sure. Again, we've seen some mythicals like Jirachi, Mew, and whatnot only be available through special research, but then we've seen mythicals like Melton or, Darkrai that are just kind of available in raids and regularly. So it's always difficult to predict how they're going to drop it. Now, interestingly enough, Magearna actually has a different form, and all it is a different color. It's called the original color Magearna. That's the name of the form, and it just changes the color of Magearna. I think it has to do with its lore. I don't think we'll see anything like that in the game, or at least like that would be weird if they dropped. I don't know. Maybe they would. But hopefully a Pokemon like this, a steel and fairy type Pokemon, could be useful, so we'll see about that. Speaking of useful, the next mythical Pokemon, Marshadow, a fighting and ghost type Pokemon, a big fan favorite, and a Pokemon that's likely going to be very useful in Pokemon Go. Now, like a lot of mythical Pokemon, especially the ones we're talking about today, it's usually only available in special events, but I can see being in 5-star raids. It's going to be very, very useful. I feel like they would give us chances at it. It's so cool, but again, it's hard to obtain, like a lot of the mythicals we talk about today. So could be research. I don't know, dude. Of course, let me know in the comments how you guys think these Pokemon will be released in Pokemon Go. Again, they're not really ever consistent with how they drop stuff, so I'm kind of just guessing. I really just judge the Pokemon based on like how it looks and how I think they'll drop it based on similar Pokemon. Marshadow's a weird one because I'm getting like Zarude vibes, where maybe they just give us one through research and never again type thing. But I'm also getting Darkrai vibes, like maybe this comes out during Halloween-ish and it's just in raids. Not sure. And finally, another fan favorite, a mythical Pokemon from Gen 7, the electric type Zeraora. It's a weird name to say. Like all these mythical Pokemon, this one is also interesting because of how special it is to obtain. It's not really the most attainable Pokemon in the main series games, but this guy to me screams raids. I could just see this Pokemon being in 5-star raids, no problem at all. I get 5-star raid vibes from this Pokemon, potentially elite raids, but have we even had mythical Pokemon in elite raids? I think elite raids have kind of all been legendaries. Don't quote me on that. There's a lot to think about, but it's possible they could change it up, or maybe they'll introduce like different raids down the line. Who knows? But again, for almost all the mythical Pokemon we discussed today, probably gonna be through raids outside of Manaphy and Phione, and maybe even Arceus. But again, I could also see them all being special research. We'll have to see. Like I said, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about these mythical Pokemon, which one you're most excited for. I think for me it's Arceus, of course. I know, generic answer. It's just so cool. I'm excited to see how they're going to handle the form change thing. I think it'll be, again, probably similar to Furfro. We'll have to see, but there's some great mythicals not in the game yet. Hopefully we see them soon.